Welcome to the bottom shelf of my fridge. The Electrolux something. It does a good job, but there is a problem here, which I'm sure you're already tearing your hair out when you just look at the screen, because these bottles are just a disaster. Look at what's happening here. We've got these bottles. These are actually Voss water bottles, fancy water, but actually they don't contain Voss water. They contain just the local drinking water supplier's water. And so we like these bottles. We use them for keeping a bit of drinking water cool, but it's kind of a mess how they're kind of stored in the fridge. So they're just kind of freestyle, roaming about on the bottom shelf of the fridge here, doing whatever they want. And you can kind of imagine when you pull a bottle out, the rest of them kind of, move around. When you put a bottle in, it's chaos. It's a safety violation is what this is. And you've also got this issue of lack of underutilized space here. We've got vertical space here that's not being utilized, and of course what does tend to happen is people do utilize it by chucking a steak up there, some snow peas, and before long it's not only is it a chaotic mess of glass, but you've got all these other variable factors involved. So now when you pull a bottle out, anything could happen. So clearly we need a solution, and the clear solution is really just to stack these bottles up something like this. That makes sense, right? If we can get them to stay in this formation, they'll be much more orderly. If we could have it such that you could pull out any bottle without the others coming out, so we need some kind of rack situation here, that would be great. And not only is it less chaotic, but we also reclaimed some space here, so we can, that's a steak's width worth of space. We could pile up steaks here. We could have 8, 9, 10 steaks stacked up here. It's all pluses. There's no downside to this, solving this problem. So it is a problem. We do need to solve it. The only question is, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to solve it? And to answer that question, we need to go take a look at the problem-solving machine and see what it's up to. All right, so here we are at the problem-solving machine. It's printing a piece here, which I've named. The file is called crossmember.gcode. It's going to take too much to explain what this is, so I'm going to let this print plus another, let me think here, 11, the same as this, plus some other pieces, some kind of indie bits. And once they're all done, I'll show you what they are and how they fit together. All right, here's the printed parts all complete. So let me show you what I've got. First of all, we've got 3 pieces that come together to form the actual rack in terms of its form. So this is the back, if you like. This is the center piece, and then this is the front piece. So these 3 pieces will be connected together by the cross members in the box there to form the actual rack. These cross members, all these are the same. So there's 12 pieces identical like this, and as you can see, they've got little lugs, little kind of dowel lugs modeled into them, which hook into the holes that are modeled into the other pieces. So for example, this one will slot into here and slot at the other side into the next piece. So yeah, 6 for each section, 6 here and then 6 here to form the overall rack. I did actually change, I didn't change the model, but I did end up printing, I think I actually happened to pick up, this is a 40% infill, and this is a 10%. You can even see, I think you can see the light kind of shining through there. So that's the difference. I did that obviously for using less material, but even so, this is still quite strong enough to hold the rack together once it's assembled. So I'm going to go ahead and press fit this all together and then try it out with the bottles. So I'll show you what it looks like in a second. Here's the assembly. It's now put together, friction fit, just snap fit together. But I just wanted to do a test fitting or test sort of installation of the bottles. So let's see how that goes. looks nice. I think it's pretty good design. It's always a question of could you use less material, and I think in this case it's almost optimal. I could have actually put cutouts on the back here behind each bottle to remove a little bit of material. Possibly could have made this back piece 5mm thick instead of 10. That could have reduced a bit. And these cross members, I already reduced it from 40% infill to 10%. And possibly could, I don't know, maybe some little cutouts. Not really sure. I could possibly find ways to remove more material. It feels maybe tiny bit heavy, but not massively overbuilt. Now it is only press fit together, and I do need to glue it. And the reason for that is if you slam a bottle in right now, as you may be able to see, it's pulling it apart just by the force of the bottle pressing on the pieces. So obviously it does need to be glued. So let's take this apart again and put it back together, but gluing each piece together. I'm just going to use super glue, and I'll kind of glue it in, maybe clamp it together, leave it for a few hours to set, and then it should be ready to install. All right, the gluing is done. I think it's dry, and man, this thing is solid. I mean, this is really rigid now, more than I would have expected, but that's good. So it's going to hopefully hold up. The only other thing I've done is I've done a little bit of edge cleanup using my deburring tool here. So I just kind of went over a couple of the edges and just made them a little bit more smooth. So we are ready to install this thing. Just do one more test fitting. That's pretty awesome. Okay, into the fridge it's going to go. So I've actually decided not to put it down on the bottom shelf where the bottles originally were, because there's a bit of a lip on this crisper. So instead I'm moving it up to this shelf, and I've cleared a space here, as you can see. So this guy is going to go right here. Now one thing is, because the bottles are quite heavy, when there's water in them, they will knock this around. So in order to hold it in place, I'm going to use a very simple low-tech solution, which is Blu Tack. Just going to put a couple of pieces of Blu Tack here so that it kind of stays in place on that shelf. All right, that should do it. Just a little bit of grip so that this kind of stays in the right position. It needs to be set back a little bit, because otherwise the fridge door will hit the front of the bottle. So I believe about that position should be all right. Let's do a test. I'll put in all the bottles. Yeah, that's staying put. Nice. That is cool. Quick test if the fridge door shuts. Yep, cool. So this is really the kind of project that I like. It's like solving a problem, improving something, making life a little bit easier and better with a simple fix like this. And just something that, every day now when I come to get a glass of water, it's going to be just cool to pull the bottle out of this rack and just know that, I was able to actually fix this problem and make it better. So that's it. Hope it was interesting for you, and see you next time.